All right, I guess I'll start all over again. Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee, FiOS 1 News, Long Island, and FiOS 1 News, New Jersey. Joe Rayo of FiOS 1 News, Hudson Valley, will be strolling in momentarily as he just takes care of a little housekeeping. We are coming off another, I guess what we can call a fairly miserable day again overall, although we did see weather conditions start to improve during this afternoon, which was quite nice, with a few breaks of sun coming through the clouds. And we've got, I think, really one more day where temperatures are not going to behave themselves. And then after that, I think we are going to be in much better shape beginning on Thursday. Now, it's not going to be picture perfect because we do have a couple of disturbances that are going to work through as we undergo the process of warming things up. You know, one of the things you notice over the years watching all this stuff as we do on a day-to-day basis, so you know, we Joe and I both remember things that perhaps, you know, pass notice for most because, you know, we kind of watch this stuff on a daily basis, and you folks at home, I know how enthusiastic you are about the weather, and it's wonderful to see. But, you know, we picked up on things in terms of just little things that I've noticed over the years, that moment in the spring where you get the first couple of warm days and suddenly everything just sort of bursts open. And I think you're going to see some of that coming up probably beginning on Thursday and through Saturday, with temperatures rising into the 60s on Thursday and into the 70s for Friday and for Saturday, for most of the area anyway. You're going to see a lot of these trees, you know, if you look closely, the buds on them are ready to go. I noticed driving up today, when I got off the Throgs Neck Bridge and working my way up into the lower Hudson Valley, you could see that hint of green beginning to appear on a lot of the trees, and certainly the grass is turning, et cetera, and it sometimes just kind of happens overnight. So pay close attention. You're going to see a lot of stuff starting to open up and bloom over the next few days, and really take advantage of the fact that we are going to have a couple of nice days here strung back to back because we've had so few of those. I was just telling everybody, Joe, how you know, I noticed on my drive up today that as I got off the Throgs Neck Bridge, you could see on the trees that they looked bare, but if you looked a little closer, you could see there was like a hint of green. The buds are getting ready to burst. Right. And I think these next, particularly starting Thursday and particularly Friday and Saturday, with most of the area getting into the 70s and some places getting to the 70s and near 80, and you're just going to see this sort of almost amazing, you know, rupture of greenery. Not complete, but it's going to look nice.
And the various people who are in charge of taking pollen counts or whatever are telling us that there's going to be a tremendous problem for those who are allergic to pollen, because there, as you just mentioned, is going to be a burst, a sudden. Everything's just going to come flying out.
Cold springs are not good for pollen sufferers because eventually, as the normal temperatures rise, even if they stay below normal, it's still going to go up.
Right.
And when these plants bloom and these flowers bloom, these blooms last much longer than they would in years where we've gone into the 80s really, really fast.
Right.
Where the flowers are out for 2 or 3 or 4 days, and then the heat just kind of takes their toll on them. We could see, you could see some of these, the cherry blossoms and the oak trees and so on. They could be taking a long time to go through their process.
Right. It's kind of like it's kind of like holding like putting your finger in the dike. All of a sudden, just everything just comes barreling on out, and come Friday and into Saturday, we're going to have those temperatures as you just mentioned, Joe. Even in the Hudson Valley, hit 70 probably on Friday and into the 70s on Saturday. The thing I think that's going to, at least in the Hudson Valley, I think that the thing that may suppress the temperatures or keep the temperatures down on Saturday is the cloud cover. There's going to be this front that's going to be just to the north.
Right.
And near to that front, there's probably going to be a good level of mid to high level cloud cover that will it will not be a terribly cloudy day. There will
But
be
it might
a
knock
sun.
the temperatures down a little lower
Right,
than they
right.
otherwise would
And
be.
as opposed to further south, let's say down toward New Jersey, you get into a west-southwesterly wind, and bang, those
Yeah, they're going to
temperatures flying
70s
up.
to around 80.
Yeah.
I think in New Jersey, certainly
Yeah.
even Friday could be middle to a few upper 70s, and then mid 70s to near 80. Long Island is a bit tricky in instances like this because springtime in Long Island is really not a good season. And I've said that many times. We're going to be fighting the sea breeze on Friday. Saturday, we might not have to fight a sea breeze, but we may have to watch a backdoor cold front coming down from New England, starting to come in from the east, where we may see temperatures actually reach 70 or get into the low 70s, and then the front is going to start pushing its way east to west as the afternoon wears on.
Kind of a side door front.
Yeah, exactly. And then that shifts the wind around to the east, and the temperatures can go from 70 to 45 in a matter of an hour.
I saw one set of depictions where the temperature on Saturday is like 80, and then the next day on Sunday they're in the 40s. I don't know
Right.
if that's going to be that dramatic, but
We can bring up the temperature map from the models from late this afternoon. I think they kind of illustrate it pretty well, just what you said, depending on which one we look at. But I'll bring up the GFS temperature map. It's not going to show you the high temperatures, but it'll show you at least the temperatures at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And
I'm calling Monday, by the way, a Karen Carpenter day because, as the Karen Carpenter hit song once said, rainy days and Mondays really bring me down. And I got to tell you something, after such a glorious Saturday, you get some light rain and cooler temperatures on Sunday, but what we're looking at for Monday verges on possibly flooding issues. Not so much from the warm front, which will be passing through our area Saturday night and ushering in the cooler air, but from the cold front that'll be ramming in here on Monday. And I used this analogy last week when we had sort of a similar situation. It acts like an atmospheric crowbar.
Right.
It's going to literally try to pry the cold air out, but in the process of doing that, it's going to produce quite a bit of precipitation, moderate rainfall, showery rains, and maybe even a rumble or two of thunder. And we could see maybe an inch or two out of this on Monday.
yeah, Saturday I think is the better of the 2 days. Sunday
Oh,
we're
by
going to
far.
have that wind coming in off the ocean, a lot of clouds, maybe some fog in some places, some patchy light rain or drizzle during the day, especially in coastal areas, and then showery rains maybe coming in western areas, spreading eastward late Sunday afternoon into Sunday night.
There would be a word to describe Sunday's weather, and that would be indifferent.
Yeah.
Just a gray, cloudy, lowering type of sky, and again, not a whole heck of a lot of precipitation. That holds off, I think, until either Sunday night late or Monday. And Monday, again, does not look like a very pretty day. And it's still 6 days away.
Right.
But, wind, rain, lightning, thunder, we're looking at...
But until then, as I said before you came in, take advantage of the nice days that we're going to have. It's not going to be picture perfect. Tomorrow will be okay. It might be I threw in the chance that we could see a shower tomorrow evening. It looks like a weak system goes by, and then again on Thursday afternoon as a warm front pushes up to our north and west, and that starts the process. So Thursday's temperatures you can see here. This is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's not quite the highs of the day. You might want to tack on a couple of degrees of the numbers if you can make them out, but it's mostly 60s from say Route 78 southward, upper 50s and low 60s as you go to the north, and then you still have 50s as you go further north. But then when we get into Friday at the 2 in the afternoon, the darker browns, that's all 70s coming into Long Island, all of New Jersey, into the Hudson Valley, up to about Route 84. Then it gets a little cooler as you go north because that frontal boundary is going to start to set up. And then when we go to Saturday, now the GFS wants to have that back door pretty far north because the highs are pushed up into the mid 70s all the way into southern Vermont and into New Hampshire, which if it happens would be great because then we for sure would have 70 some near 80 and have the whole day. I just don't. These backdoor fronts are a little tricky sometimes. They come in faster than you think.
That may be pushing the envelope, I think, a bit. And again, I said that it appeared to me, at least on Saturday, that weather front, that backdoor front, would be not too far away to the north, it may be one of those situations where it'll be like in the vicinity of Albany Saturday
Right.
afternoon. And again, the blow-off cloud cover coming down into the Hudson Valley, kind of partially obscuring the sun and holding the temperatures down into the low 70s. I have to laugh at that, holding the temperatures down in low 70s. It's been so long since we've had temperatures even near normal.
Well, now Jersey, just remember, they had 2 days
Right.
last week where they did get into the
Yeah, but
70s,
Jersey lives in a
central and
different
south.
world. They're in a different
Well,
world.
they're 250 miles north to south, so it's,
Right.
you could be you could be 32 in Sussex and 75 at Atlantic City,
Right.
all on the same day.
Right.
Now, if you look at the temperatures here for Saturday afternoon, this is the Canadian's view, which is a little bit, I think, a little less exaggerated than the GFS. It has about a 56 degree reading up where I think this would be near Albany.
Right.
69, maybe that's Kingston or Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
75 in Rockland County. So I think maybe this makes a little bit more sense. But you notice you go in southeastern New England, it's in the 40s. So that back door front is getting ready, and it does move on through. So that by Sunday morning, it's in the 40s all the way down into central New Jersey, and we're talking even upper 30s across much of northern Connecticut. So this is a fairly strong push of cold air coming down from the northeast. All of this because we've got this storm that's going to be coming out of the northern plains, and I can bring that up here.
I wonder if there's a possibility that, since it's going to be a dramatic difference in the temperature between one side of that back door front and the other, whether or not there might be a bit of convection.
That's possible. It's certainly possible, but it doesn't look like the model plays on that too strongly. This is now as we go into that warmer air for Friday and Saturday. By the way, I also think that out of this storm that's going to be moving out of the northern plains and into the low center itself, going across Nebraska, there's probably going to be some severe weather Friday night in the lower Mississippi Valley down to the Western Gulf, and then again later on Saturday.
Right, you pointed out yesterday that day 5, now it's day 4 on the convective outlook, and they're still saying that could be a zone to watch.
And you can see how the GFS, I'm sorry, this is the Canadian. Let me go back to the GFS. The back door is a little more evident on the Canadian and European, but here's this, just this whole thing about the severe weather that occurs across the south. And it's important because that energy eventually gets involved when the storm reforms and moves up the Appalachians, and we get into that miserable, soaking rain.
Look at the ice.
And the ice up in northern Maine, in most of Maine, except in the north. By the way, I have a regular on my Facebook page who messaged me today and informed me that Caribou, Maine, if they get 6 more inches of snow, they would have 142.2 inches for the season, which would make it the 9th snowiest winter. And they still have time to get more. But look, we're going to get a pretty good soaking rain out of this late Sunday night, but more Sunday night, I think, into Monday. And that's looks like some convective development here Monday morning with a low in northeastern Pennsylvania. So there could be some lightning and thunder.
Yeah, there's no question. By the way, a place that's even more removed than Caribou, Maine, up in northern Maine, in Aroostook County, is Madawaska, Maine, and Fort Kent, Maine, 2 radio stations that I did at the very beginning of my career in broadcast meteorology, and the 2 radio stations that were up there don't even exist anymore. But you talk about a place that's way out of the way. By the way, also, that area of the country, everybody thinks of Idaho when you're thinking about potatoes, but they grow quite a bit of potatoes.
Oh, I love Maine potatoes.
Yeah, up in central and northern Maine, that's potato growing country too. But 142 inches, that's
a lot.
For them, that's woo.
And by the way, it should also point out to everybody, as far as the warm weather is concerned and what we do get, the other reason why you should enjoy it is because next week, as the pattern gets blocky again, it's going to be cool pretty much all next week. Maybe there might be the odd day where temperatures, make a run for the 60s, but it looks like it's going to be the kind of week where we're going to be fighting temperatures again all week long in no better than the 50s at least.
They say, who was the person who wrote April can be the cruelest month?
Edna St. Vincent Millay. Yeah. Are you impressed? April, here comes April like an idiot strewing flowers. That's the line. Well, it was that poem. She wrote it. It was actually a poem about right around the time of World War One, and all the death and destruction that was going on as the war raged on in Europe during World War One. We sound like two BBC people here doing a documentary,
or at least on NPR.
You know, as the war raged, an entire generation of men between the ages of 18 and 29 just basically wiped out. But while all this is happening, spring is coming, flowers are blooming, as if there was no connection. Nature just did not care. It just went on doing what it normally does.
I'm talking about the fact that Saturday, from this vantage point right now, looks like a beautiful day for outdoor activities. If you go outside, it's in the 70s. The birds will be twittering, and who knows? As you just mentioned, we may actually literally be able to see the buds coming out from the trees on that day. And then you wake up to go to work and school on Monday morning, and you're looking out the window, and it looks like a horrendous day. You step outside, it's in the 50s again, and and that's it's like a cruel slap in the face. What we're looking at for later on in the weekend and early next week.
Danny Nankumar, I think it was you. Toward the end of my YouTube cast tonight, you asked a question, and I thought it was a really good question. But being that I'm almost 60, I forgot what the question was. So if you remember, if it was you, I think it was. If you could remember what your question was, post it up now, and it would be great. Tony Mazza is on. Anthony, I haven't seen you in a while. Say hi to Rosalie. And Stephen Franco is on. Joe Gismondi is on. I haven't seen Joey in a while. These are all my buddies.
Yes.
What do both of us think about the weather pattern? There are words that we're not permitted to use.
Weather
on air and barely off air.
I always say weather is cold and weather is hot. We'll always have weather, whether or not. There's the pattern.
In all truthfulness, I think I've said this and I made it pretty clear. Usually I'm not pretty sensitive or touchy about whatever the weather is, but the winter was just too long.
Yeah.
It needs to go away. Right. This extension of the winter time.
Carol Puglisi Giancone.
Yes.
Tim Fleischer got punched.
Yes, I did see that.
He's on Channel 7.
Yes,
right?
he did. He was covering a story, and I hope he's. We send our best to him, for a speedy recovery. Yeah.
We don't. When we watch the news, and we watch, and this goes for our reporters or for any reporter who's at any other station, probably one of the most dangerous things that you do is doing a live report, outside with people around you, whatever, because you never know the nut that might be out there trying to get on television or whatever like that, or saying something, or even doing something.
I'm not quite sure what the circumstances were with this. I did see I did see a mention of this.
I'm sure it'll be all over YouTube tomorrow
or somewhere.
Yeah.
But we do send our best to all our colleagues over at I know Channel 7. A few of the folks over there. Give our best to Tim. Going back to Danny's point. It's just been too long. I don't like this weather pattern at all. Now that we're going into this blocking pattern next week, that's just going to prolong the cool weather.
Right.
And by the way, I think I mentioned this last night to you, Joe. I accidentally had pulled up a couple of maps that I drew from last May, and it showed, that we were actually dealing with a blocking pattern for a good part of last May, right up until Memorial Day. So this is not unusual. It's spring. You get blocking patterns, and that's just the way it is.
It's been too long, and I'll absolutely agree with you. And unfortunately, it looks like we may see this right on into the beginning of May. I mentioned the experimental long-range probability map by the Climate Prediction Center has below normal temperatures in the northeast up until the first 3 or 4 days of May. So this may persist right on through, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm getting tired of it myself.
All right, so let's call it a night. It's an easy night.
Gary Stone
too much happening. Hey, Gary, good to see you. By the way, just real quick, I don't know if you noticed this morning, but I was actually on with Brian Fitzgerald. I was having coffee on my couch. Brian was here. And now we have the ability on our phones to, if say if I'm doing a live from my phone, I have a point to this, so you follow me.
Right.
So if I'm live on my phone, and you are watching it from your phone, okay, hint, and you comment, I will get a notification asking if I want to invite you to join me in the live cast, and if I hit yes, it will split the screen in half.
Wow.
And you will come up on this side, I will come up on that side, and it's actually pretty cool. I wish we had it during the winter, because then I could be live from Long Island showing you what's going on outside, and Joe could be live at the same time in the Hudson Valley showing you what's going on outside. So going forward, since it's the end of the season, at least when we get into summertime and maybe hurricane season, and for next winter, we're going to have the ability to do these sort of split casts, and we don't have to be physically in the same place.
By the way, I pointed out I put it on my Facebook page in an article. I think it was from Time Magazine. The folks over in Colorado who make the projections about the upcoming hurricane.
Yes,
season.
I put that up on my Facebook page yesterday.
Yeah, and so this
slightly above average season they're calling for. Slightly above average chance of a major hurricane hitting the United States.
You could have a very, very active season, but if not a single one of those storms hits the United States, or not a single one of them hits your part of the United States, it's
perceived as inactive. You could have a very weak season with only a handful of storms, but if they all make landfalls, then it would be considered busy. So it's all about perception. Okay, and speaking of perception, I have to perceive that at the top of the hour, one will be doing FiOS 1 News Long Island and FiOS 1 News New Jersey.
And we've already done, or are getting prepared for, FiOS 1 News in the Lower Hudson Valley, and we will be doing that at the top of the hour as well.
Brian Fitzgerald, Jeff Banson on Morningside to get you going for your morning commute.
And in the midday hours, Addison Green and Brittany Borough will be watching your weather carefully until the two Joes come strolling in.
I was just going to say the Brothers Grimm will be here tomorrow night. Edna St. Vincent Millay, Elizabeth Browning, and Robert Browning, or whoever else you want to bring into the equation. I hope you were impressed by that, by the way.
I'm impressed. I had no clue that you had this erudition of poetry, and maybe we should finish each session now with a poem.
We could also finish each session by doing a Monty Python sketch. But not tonight. Let's think this through.
Putting bricks to sleep,
Yes,
something like that.
That might work. All right, folks. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good one.